Hello, friends. Welcome to another Tech Talk. I know I always say that every single Tech Talk is special, but today we also have a special occasion to celebrate because we're going to celebrate the release of the Visual Studio Code Java 1.0 extension. And to join us on this celebration, I would like to invite to the stage our friends Roland and Fred. So, Roland, Fred, welcome to DevNation.
Thank you for having us.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and we were discussing a bit before this tech talk. It seems that I'm the only lucky guy today to have a beautiful weather because it was kind of rainy or cloudy for you.
Confirmed. Yeah, it hasn't been great here. It's pretty much overcast.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what does it mean for you to have this new Visual Studio Code for Java 1.0? How do you feel about it?
relieved.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming. We've been working on it for the past 5 years. At least I've been working on it. Much less lately, but uh, it's been a long journey, and it's incredible how far we've come.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can assure that the people out there using the Java extension are pretty happy for the result, and nothing beats the feeling of deploying your code to production, right? So let's talk more about it, but from the technical side of you. So today, live from Toronto, Canada, Paris, France, and Cary, North Carolina, USA. Welcome to DevNation.
all right. Thanks for having us. So
Yeah.
I'm Fred Bricon. I'm a principal software engineer at Red Hat. I work on the DevTools team, on the architects team for the DevTools team. And I've been working on VS Code Java and its language server Eclipse JDTLS for the past 5 years. And today we're gonna discuss how far we've come from and where we are today. Roland?
Yeah. Do you want to quickly just cover some of the history as well of VS Code? Because admittedly, I've
Sure,
been team
but
lead for the plugins team for maybe about a year
yeah,
now as well.
yeah. So yeah,
Okay, let's.
I will. I can discuss that. So basically, we started 5 years ago. Around I think it was May 2016. OK Immersion started a prototype uh, to um, to integrate to implement a language server for the Java language, implementing the language server protocol for Visual Studio Code. And so he started alone. And then a few weeks later, after an initial demonstration, he went on to a hackathon in Switzerland hosted by the VS Code team, uh, who incidentally the initial VS Code team led by Eric Gamma started the Eclipse JDT project back in the day. So it's been a long time. So they were super familiar with the Java language, the Java ecosystem in Eclipse, and the whole group started implementing a language server based on the Eclipse IDE, minus all the UI elements and keeping all the backend running as a headless process. And then eventually they published this extension to the Visual Studio Code Marketplace. And then I joined the project September 2016, and then we've been releasing like pretty much every couple of weeks. Eventually, at some point, Microsoft contacted us to ask us if they could help contributing debugging support for VS Code Java, which they did. We happily accepted them to the team, and then thanks to their tremendous help, here we are today, 5 years later, with what we think is a complete IDE, which is worthy of becoming version 1.0, which we released 2 days ago. So yeah, that's where we are today, and hopefully Roland will give you a bunch of demonstrations about how to use VS Code Java, Java 17 maybe. So
okay, let's do it.
Go ahead, Roland.
Edson, if you're on the line, if you could just transition over to my screen. Awesome. Okay, and I'll minimize this. So just to get a few things quickly out of the way, for this particular demonstration, I will be showing off some features from the VS Code Java extension, but as well from one of the additional extensions called Debugger for Java. So yes, I have language support for Java by Red Hat at version 1.0. In addition to that, for the running and debugging support, I will be showing off some capabilities from the debugger for Java. Okay, so with that out of the way, I would like to just quickly mention that this demonstration is going to be working on a project that is essentially called an unmanaged project. We work just fine with Maven build projects or Gradle projects, but one of the things that's really cool about our extension VS Code Java is it's really easy to start from scratch. All you really need are a couple folders, some Java source files, maybe some libraries, and it's very easy to just simply open up a particular Java file and the extension starts up and you can get something off the ground fairly easily. If you look down here at the status bar, you can sort of see that we started importing the project and everything is just being indexed and set up. So this works for this, what we call an unmanaged project, but it also works for maybe a more formal project with a build system behind it. So you can see we've finished importing the project, and immediately I get some information here. You can see this item indicate that we're running Java 17. This is something I'd also like to quickly mention because it comes up quite often. You can use whatever Java version you like. You don't have to use the one that you configured to run VS Code Java. You can configure whatever Java version you like. And the way to generally do that, I'll click on this little status bar item here, and you'll see it links to settings. The setting we care about is java.configuration.runtimes. So we'll edit this particular setting. And it's actually pretty straightforward. If I wanted to add an additional JDK, I could just simply use the completions and they would guide me through the process fairly easily. Of course, if you're running a Maven or Gradle project, this is usually configured in that build system itself, and the extension will respect that. In our case, we have to configure it because there's no information about this. So you can see here the default is Java 17. I could just as easily make this Java 1.8, and I would just save it. And you can see there's some errors showing up on our project because I am using some features that are beyond Java 8. So obviously some text blocks here as well. There's certain things we need a higher version of Java. So I'll undo this. But definitely worth mentioning that you can use whatever Java version you want, provided you have an installation for it.
Yeah, Roland, would you be able to maximize your window so we can have more real estate?
Sure.
Perfect.
Is this a little better?
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful. Okay. So with that quick thing out of the way, let's just go through sort of an example to kind of see what capabilities we do have, some new and some that have been around for a while. So I just have a simple project here with some source files, creating some string. I'm essentially deserializing it, and then I'm passing it through a switch statement here. So let's say, for example, we want to add another class to this. So I'll just go here into the package. I'll right click. I'll click new file, and let's say we have accessories, we have apparel. Our shop wants to add some decor. So I'll just create that, and immediately you can see there's some standard boilerplate code that can be added. So one of the concerns developers often have is, I'm using a new tool. How much am I going to be spending just getting the standard boilerplate stuff off the ground before I can do some actual coding? And just like you'd expect out of any IDE, there's a lot of stuff we have built in to assist users. So the standard license header, again, this is a setting you can configure yourself by going to File Preference Settings. There are keyboard shortcuts for this, but I think it's probably a little more useful to go slowly through them. So the option is file header. And if I just click edit settings there, you can see it's essentially just a list of lines that are going to be injected in the actual source file. So very easy to kind of just get something off the ground. Now let's add some fields to this for decor. Let's say, we'll keep it pretty simple. Obviously we have completion, goes without saying. But let's say for decor, we have maybe a season, and maybe we have, it's part of a collection, let's say. So we have a couple fields, and it's very easy to just generate getters and setters for them. One way to do it is to trigger quick assist from the type declaration itself. So depending on what keyboard shortcuts you have, it might be a little different. I use Control-1 for this to get them. And I have, generate getters and setters immediately. I can specify which fields they should apply to. And, you can very easily do it that way. You can also simply select the individual field and create getters and setters for that. And in addition to that, you can simply do it directly from typing. So let's say I want a get method. Well, we don't have get collection or get season, but we can very easily create them like that. So it's really straightforward, the kind of stuff you'd expect out of an IDE to very quickly get started. So another thing that can quite often happen is, let's say you're navigating in between source files. Sometimes it's a project you're not familiar with. So very often you might know a particular method, but not where it's located. You can very easily use goto symbol in workspace. And if you remember the method, you can find it this way. This is another option that needs to be enabled, but it's really convenient when you know the method and maybe not necessarily all the source files. So in this case here, I have a switch expression. Let's add this new class that I've created to it. So I'll just create a case for decor. We'll call it DC. And actually, one of the issues we have is if we go to item here, we can see it's a sealed class, and we're using accessory and apparel are permitted to extend it. So what we need to do is actually add decor here as well. And we will get an error because we actually need to go into decor. So I'll go with peak type definition. And we can simply extend item through this. And I suppose we need to make it final as well. So let's do that. We'll change it to final. Okay. Error's gone away. And we've added decor as permitted by item as a sealed class. So we'll go back here, and one of the things we see, we actually do also have an error with respect to the fact that we don't have a default case. So before we do that, let's actually just write the case for decor if we happen to run into it. So we'll just format a string here. We'll call it decor. There'll be a label. We'll add some information regarding the fields. Let's just do it like that. And then we'll add the remaining fields here. So get label. I believe it was, actually we can do it this way. So get season, and we'll add get collection as well. Okay. There we go. So actually what you can see is that the error has gone away. And the reason for that is if we actually go into item, because it's a sealed class, there's only 3 other classes that are extending from it. So the static analysis understands that there are no other possible cases. And so the error goes away, and we can get away without defining a default case. or any other cases, although it can be good to do that as well. So this is just a quick demonstration of just some Java 17 features that we support in a pretty straightforward way. In addition to that, we also now support type hierarchy. So with any particular class, you can simply right-click and go to show type hierarchy. And it works pretty much as you would expect. We can jump in between entries, and it can be really convenient, obviously, when you're needing to look at a particular class, what it implements and what its hierarchy structure is.
Roland.
Yes?
Back to the switch case.
Sure.
So it's worth noting that this pattern matching for switch expressions is a preview feature in Java 17. So here you're in an unmanaged project, and still it works without doing anything. You don't have to configure anything to enable preview features because you're in an unmanaged project. Obviously, if you were using a Maven or Gradle project, you would have to enable the -- enable preview flag.
Yeah.
But here we decided that, okay, this is a simple folder. We're going to make it as simple as possible to get started with the latest and greatest Java features available. So yeah, it works out. Preview features work out of the box for the latest Java feature.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something we simply configure on unmanaged projects just to make it easier for users to take advantage of the latest and greatest. In addition to that, one thing I'd just like to quickly show for unmanaged projects, just to quickly mention, there are users who want to use unmanaged projects, but their use case kind of quickly progresses and becomes more advanced. We do support some of those advanced cases as well. As an example, it's very common to want to include new libraries. If you go to Preferences Settings, there's a setting, I believe it's Java project reference libraries. Yeah, reference libraries. So it's Java project reference libraries. Although I should do it by the project. So you can have settings based on global settings or a particular project in the workspace. So let's do it like that. So let me just reference libraries. Yeah. So by default, pretty much any jar under lib, under any folder will work, but you can get more complicated. I won't go too deeply into it, but you can specify individual libraries with includes. You can even have a mapping between those includes and sources as well. So we do support a lot of more advanced cases. One thing I do want to quickly also show is that, at least for this is something that has been supported for Maven projects, obviously, and Gradle projects, but for unmanaged projects now, we can also link directly to sources, even if they aren't configured. So you can see here we have comments. These are sources. And this is essentially just done because if your artifacts are coming from Maven Central, we can simply read that information and query for the source artifacts. I can quickly show you that if I open up a terminal here, and I'll enter the lib folder. Maybe I can make it a little bigger, like that. And if I just add another library from outside and just place it into the lib folder, I'll minimize this. And if I look for, you can see that we immediately have completion for that particular library and values. So this is just to demonstrate that an unmanaged project can seem very simple, but we do have configuration for supporting more advanced use cases. I think the last thing, or one of the last things I would like to look at, is obviously running and debugging an application. I think it's great to be able to explore code bases like this and have really nifty features, plenty of configuration. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to run and debug our application really effectively. We can do this in a handful of ways. Obviously, we have a play button here, so we can run the Java application through there. I actually have a setting to add code lenses, which allow you to debug directly in the program itself. So those are, again, accessible through settings. And I believe if you just type in something like code lens, you can, let's see here, diff editor, JavaScript. Yeah, it's right at the bottom, Java debug settings, enable run debug code lens. So you enable that, and
it's enabled by default.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually good to know. There's so many settings that are really useful that sometimes you just wonder, is it enabled or not? But this is an example of something that's really great. And you can simply run your program. Just a quick note about this. Obviously, some of the settings maybe aren't ideal. People prefer a different approach. So I know this is something Fred has liked to do in the past. It can be a little cryptic to read what just happened, but we did just run the program. So maybe to make it look a little nicer, we can change where the output is going to. So instead of into the integrated terminal, we can change this to the internal console. The setting is Java debug settings console. And obviously you noticed there was kind of a build that happened before that because we are essentially doing a build on save. Auto build takes place. We don't need to do yet another build. So we can disable that. And if we actually run again, we can see a much nicer output. So just small things to keep in mind as well. There's plenty that can be configured to your taste. So another thing we can do, obviously, is we can set breakpoints, of course. Let's just add one right here. So I'll just insert a breakpoint here. It's worth noting that we do support conditional breakpoints based on certain hit counts. You can even add a log message directly. We support a bunch of these options as well. So let's just actually run this in debug mode. So we can also see that we display some information about the actual variables. Maybe there's really not a nice way to print this too elegantly here. So we have it in the local view here as well. Okay, but we also see here that we can inspect individual values. We can step over certain things. We can hover over expressions. We can certainly, through the debug console, output values, maybe even output directly to the console if I do that. Yeah. And we can also modify values while the program is running as well. So let's just say we wanted to switch O to null. So now we see it's null. And we get an exception, of course, because it wasn't expected. So a lot of the same sort of capabilities you'd expect are available here. And there's always new features and new things that we're improving upon. For a non-code for a non, I guess, feature-related aspect, one thing we've also really worked hard to improve is performance. So there's a lot of great improvements that are happening upstream in terms of improving performance for code completions, for looking up certain things, and even the way we do certain queries, just to make it that much more responsive and fast. That's mostly what I wanted to demo. I don't know how we are for time. I assume we're probably approaching close to the limit. So Fred, if there's anything you would like to mention as well.
I think you've covered a lot already. Obviously, VS Code Java proposes a whole lot of a bunch of features on top of all you've seen already. So feel free to test them. You can install VS Code Java from the Visual Studio Code Marketplace, even the OpenVSX Marketplace. Yeah. If you're running on VS Codium, for instance. And yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. 5 years to reach 1.0. So 1.0 because we realized that we have pretty much all the features that we wanted that we consider what makes a good IDE, a good Java IDE. But this is not the end of the journey, obviously. We're still working on some cool features. Microsoft has been tremendously helpful and is working on specifically. I can probably announce it today, but the biggest complaint that we have today regarding VS Code Java is that if you open a Maven project, for instance, um, the extension will create a whole bunch of Eclipse metadata files in your folder or slash repository. Some people don't like it at all. And so the Microsoft Java team has been working very hard, experimenting ways to avoid that. So hopefully in the next few weeks slash month, we're not sure when it's going to be ready, but we'll be able to open a Maven project, and it will not generate anything Eclipse related in the folder or repository. So that should make lots of people very happy. And of course, we're still trying to play catch up with all the other IDs in terms of features, refactoring, completion. So we have a lot on our plate, and we're striving to release regularly, like every couple of weeks, maybe even longer sometimes. But you can expect at least one release a month. So bug fixes, new enhancements. Yeah, just keep in touch with us, and then you'll see great things.
Oh, thank you very much, guys, for this awesome presentation. We do have some questions for the audience. And the first one, Luis Valdez Guerrero is asking, do we have support for debugging and remote containers? Is there anything different that you need to do besides like port forwarding, port 5005 from the container?
No, so I'm not too familiar with, I haven't played a lot with remote containers. What I did, even today, I was using VS Code Java in code spaces from GitHub, and I was able to run a Quarkus application on the remote container, put some breakpoints, and debug my application like it was just a plain local application. So it should work out of the box.
Okay. Cool. And Jack Conlon is also asking, can you give a list of recommended extensions to VS Code? Well, first one should be the Java extension by Red Hat, but other ones, do you have other favorite ones?
So Microsoft came up with the Java extension pack, which regroups all the basic extensions you probably want to see together to have a good user experience with Java. So the Java extension pack includes the language server, so VS Code Java, the debugger, a test runner, a Maven extension. There's a couple more. The code, their code assist based on AI. What's it called?
IntelliCode.
IntelliCode, yeah.
And
IntelliCode for Java. It will
project manager
basically augment the content assist and propose the most likely used method first in your code completion. I think they have 6 extensions in their pack by default. And then if you're using Maven, for instance, I highly recommend the a couple extensions. First, the VS Code XML extension that our team is also developing. Provides great XML content assist. And also there's an extension that is kind of similar to Dependabot on GitHub, which will analyze your dependencies for known vulnerabilities. So it's called dependency analytics. If you open a POM XML file from and you have VS Code Java installed already, you will be prompted to or you'll get a recommendation to install it. Yeah, it's pretty good. It allows you to detect vulnerabilities in your POM XML, and then if you find some problems, you can have a quick fix to say change the dependency version to a known good version. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of extensions that are
Yeah, the
useful
ecosystem is
in VS
pretty
Code.
big. And I shared on the chat, on the YouTube chat, a link to the extension pack for Java. So Fred mentioned the initial set of extensions if you want to do Java. It's already there, and it already includes the language support for Java by Red Hat, which we were discussing
Yeah,
today.
and to conclude on the list of useful extensions. So if you're using Spring Boot, there's a bunch of Spring Boot extensions that are pretty useful. One of them is made by Microsoft, and the other by our friends at Pivotal. And if you use Quarkus instead of Spring Boot, good for you. Use VS Code Quarkus, another great extension developed by our great team. And one extension I forgot to mention from the extension pack by Microsoft is the Project Manager. So this one is interesting in the sense that it will allow you to display your project logical view, like the packages, the dependencies, and then browse and deep dive into the dependencies from the different jar, different packages, different classes from the jars, like other IDs.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we're already on the top of the hour, so we have time for one last question. Jack again is asking, how do you interface with the Gradle build extension?
We don't. So, well, partially. So today the Gradle integration is managed through the BuildShip project, which is an Eclipse project. BuildShip provides us with minimal Gradle support in terms of integration with the build files. So it will read build files, whether it's a build.gradle file or build.kts file, build.gradle.kts file, so Kotlin script. So those build files are read, understood by the language server, and then the class path of your project is set up accordingly. However, this is pretty limited in the sense that you will not get code completion or validation for your build scripts. I think there are other Gradle extensions out there, but they're outside of the scope of VS Code Java today.
Cool. Thanks for the answer, Fred. And I would like to thank you again, Roland and Fred, for this brilliant presentation. I'm pretty sure everybody learned a bit today, a bit something new, just like I did. And if you didn't try VS Code for Java yet, I hope that immediately after watching the session, you get to give it a try. And thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in the next DevNation offering.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.